These are the EZDIY-FAB RGB dual ring PC case fans. They're the 120mm version. I recently picked them up on Amazon for about $30 for a pack of 3, which works out to just $10 per fan. And as far as RGB case fans go, that's actually really cheap. So the question is, are these actually worth buying, or is this just another one of those examples of you get what you pay for type of thing? The fans come packaged in a super plain and ordinary black cardboard box with no graphics or anything like that on it other than the EZDIY logo right on the top panel. In the package, there's a single page of instructions with a few pictures that show you how to connect the fans, and there's a labeled diagram with all of the remote control functions. And then we have the 3 fans, a 10-port fan hub, the remote control, and some mounting hardware. Handling the fans, they feel pretty good. They are made from a hard plastic and they got these nice little rubber pads on the contact points where you're gonna mount them to the case, and that should help reduce unwanted noise and vibration and stuff like that. Overall, I'd say it's a pretty good build quality considering they're only $10 a fan. In terms of performance specs, we have a max fan speed of 1200 RPM, the noise level tops out at about 25 decibels, airflow is 48.7 CFM, air pressure is 0.9 millimeters, which is actually a little bit low. It's a little lower than I'm used to seeing, but it's good enough for general applications like intake or exhaust in a PC case. They use hydraulic fluid bearings, and their rated power consumption is 1.68 watts. The fans use proprietary connections, which means you can't just take this and plug it into an open fan header on your motherboard. That's just not gonna work. But instead, they do give you this 10-port fan hub. And what you do is you take all these fan connectors, plug them into the hub, and then the hub gets powered by a standard SATA power connection. So that goes into your power supply, and that's what provides all of the power to spin the fans and also for the lighting. And then if you want to take things a step further and have motherboard software control over the lighting effects, there's a 5-volt, 3-pin ARGB connector that you need to plug into your motherboard. Now, let's talk about that for a second. No matter what I did with this Asus X570 motherboard that I have right here, I could not get the motherboard software to control the lighting on the fans. It just wouldn't work. I updated everything you could possibly update, and there's just no way I could get it to work. I also have 2 ports on here, 2 different ARGB ports, tried them both, they won't work. Then I went over to my 9900K system that uses also an Asus motherboard. That one's a Z390 Strix motherboard, and same thing, it just would not work on that board either. So I don't know if these fans just have an issue working with the Asus software and the Asus interface, or if I just have a defective set, I'm not sure. So if you have a set of these fans and you've been able to get that motherboard software control to work, leave us a comment below so that other people can see that and understand whether it works or not, because I just absolutely can't get it to work on either one of my test systems. Now let's talk about how awesome this lighting looks. Each light loop has 16 ARGB LEDs, and each fan has 2 light loops. It's amazing. It makes for some super bright and colorful lighting. Like, these things are super impressive as far as the lighting goes. I think if you're using these in your system, even with just 3, that's probably all the RGB lighting you would need. You probably don't need to go with any extra strips or anything like that, but what's cool about it is you got to remember that fan hub can support up to 10 fans. So if you want to add more, there's a lot of capacity to do so, and that's pretty awesome. So it's a pretty neat system that is expandable and will allow you to have a boatload of fans in your system if you really want to. And I mentioned before that I couldn't get the software control to work with these fans with my Asus motherboard, but that actually doesn't matter because it comes with this little infrared remote that'll allow you to take full control over all of the settings for the fans, including the lighting effects. So this will allow you to turn everything on and off. There's an auto switch. You can change the fan speed, cycle through effects, adjust the brightness, and even just select solid colors. So let's play around with this right now and see what we can do. So it's really easy to just turn them on and off, very basic on and off switch. If you press the auto button, it'll just start kind of cycling through all the different effects that come pre-programmed on there. You can adjust the brightness up and down. These next buttons in the middle will cycle through the different effects. Press of a button, change the effect, pretty easy. These buttons on the side here will change the speed of the fan, so we can crank these all the way up. Right now they're probably not at the max. I don't know if the microphone's picking that sound up, but they're all the way up to their max RPM right now, which should be about 1200. They're noticeably louder than they were before. So like any fan, if you're gonna crank them up, you can expect to hear some noise, that's for sure. And then these solid color buttons on the bottom do just that. Whatever you press, it'll just kind of activate a solid color. Again, very bright, vibrant, colorful. Awesome RGB lighting. As far as the RGB lighting goes on these, it's gonna be tough to beat, especially for the price. Now with the fans running, there is a little bit of vibration that you can feel, especially if you crank the RPMs all the way up to the max, but Overall, I wouldn't say it's all that bad, especially not for a really cheap fan like this. So that's a good thing. And you do have those rubber pads like I mentioned earlier. So that will isolate the fan from your case, which should prevent the transfer of any of those vibrations and the creation of any unwanted noise. So again, I think you're pretty good from that perspective. So other than the failure to work with my Asus motherboard's RGB software control, these fans are still pretty awesome. They move quite a bit of air and they're pretty quiet, especially at the low to mid RPM range. And look at that RGB lighting. It's amazing. I think it looks just as good as some of those obscenely expensive options from some of the big brand names out there. And this is a great way to get some awesome looking RGB lighting into your system on a budget. So not everybody wants to drop insane amounts of money on RGB fans, and this is a great alternative. The only downsides that I can think of are you might be stuck using this infrared remote to control all the lighting if you can't get your motherboard software to work. That's what happened to me, so I'm stuck with this. And then the other thing is, if that fan hub stops working, guess what? So do your fans, because they use those proprietary connections, which means you can't just stick them into the fan headers on your motherboard. So there's also that. But nevertheless, I think they're a pretty good deal. At $10 US a fan or $30 US for this pack of 3 like I have here, it's gonna be tough to beat this RGB lighting setup for that price. So purchasing links are in the description. If you end up picking some of these up, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share. See ya.